The other thing we don't do is we don't check our mindsets at the door, right? We don't check our biases at the door. I had an experience a couple of companies ago where we were going through this exact thing. Should we expand into Europe? And we happened to have a sales leader on our team who had done just that at his last two companies. And he was gung-ho. He knew exactly the roadmap, exactly how to get it done. This is what we've got to do, step, step, step. He brought his old playbook from the other company. We thought we were great. What we didn't notice or what we didn't understand was that he was bringing a biased mindset to the table. He had done it before and it had worked out. So naturally, it's going to work out this time.
Right.
Well, just ask an NFL team who's won last year's Super Bowl, like the Eagles, and how did it go this year? Didn't go so good, right? A lot of the same players, same coaching staff, same level of talent, completely different outcome, right?
Yeah.
That happens in business too.
The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you're ambitious, but are manual tasks like admin, lead generation, nurturing, and onboarding holding you back from truly scaling your business? Imagine saving dozens of hours every week, freeing you to deepen client relationships and execute high-impact strategy. Our clients aren't just imagining it. They're saving countless hours per week and doubling their revenue within months. We custom-build AI automation systems that eliminate the grind. From effortless lead generation and nurturing to seamless onboarding, we give you back the most valuable resource, your time, so you can focus on building those vital human connections and driving strategic growth. Stop letting repetitive tasks limit your potential. It's time to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Ready to unlock your true scaling power? Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free AI audit call today to discover how you can save time and double your revenue. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Intelligence Forge YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
From executive depth to revenue architecture, building scalable GTM systems that survive without you. Welcome to the Intelligence Forge, where we explore how business leaders are leveraging technology and strategy to build smarter, more scalable companies. I'm thrilled today to have Monty Fowler with us. Monty, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Emmanuel. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Introduce yourself, AspireSix, and what you do in your own words.
Sure. So my name is Monty Fowler. I'm a managing partner and co-founder at AspireSix. We're a consultancy based here in the United States. We work primarily with growth stage companies. Most of my pedigree has been spent in startups, going all the way back to 1999. I've been in enterprise technology sales and sales leadership for coming up on 35 years now. It's just been a great career. I've learned so many things, good and bad. And today, I'm obviously on the back nine of my career. And I spend a lot of time working with founders and executive leadership teams, trying to help them map predictable growth. Growth is a subject that's on the mind of every company, I hope. As we know, with the macroeconomic conditions, the geopolitical conditions, just the madness of our world, it's getting harder and harder to predict what's going to happen a year from now, but even a quarter from now seems to be very, very opaque to a lot of companies. So what I do is, in my firm, what we try to do is work with leaders to help them solve structural issues inside their organizations to unlock growth that isn't happening right now. And we bring all of our experience to the table. We've got a team of about 20 people in our company, and every single one of us comes from an operator pedigree. None of us have been consultants in the big five sense of the word, right? None of us are McKinsey or Accenture alumni. But what we are is we are operators. We are people who have founded companies, built companies, grown companies. We've walked into organizations that are in real significant need of help. They're on death's door, as we like to say sometimes, and we've run turnaround plays for them. But at the end of the day, really our whole mission out in the marketplace is to help founders and CEOs and their teams be successful and do it in a predictable way.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that and for laying that foundation. But I'm very interested in knowing success story that you want to share with us. What's actually the most exciting things that is happening right now at AspireSix that you want to share? Something that actually excites you also.
Yeah. So, I think the most exciting thing that's happening with our firm right now today is we're talking to the marketplace about a topic that we care very much about. And it's a term that we coined called executive debt. And really what we're talking about there is kind of the long-term consequences of all of those short-term decisions that we make. A good way to frame it is anybody who's in the tech sector understands what technical debt is, right? It's the price that you pay for all the shortcuts you take on your way to getting a product built or a product launched or a new feature packed into your solution, right? We make compromises along the way so that we can continue to progress, and we don't necessarily think about the long-term consequences that decision or that set of decisions is going to yield at some point in the future. And with technical debt, it's one of those things that, like real debt, compounds over time. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger the longer you ignore it or the longer you allow it to persist in your organization. Executive debt has the exact same feature to it, which is it compounds, it gets bigger, it gets more impactful and starts to drag the organization down. So what we are talking to the marketplace about right now is, as a leadership team, as a founder, as a CEO, as a senior leader in an organization, how can I make strategic decisions with my peers in a better way, in a way that is going to at least force us to ask some what if questions? Well, here's our plan. We're going to go to market in Europe in 2026. Great. Okay, we have to build out a sales team over there. We need to get an SDR team spun up so we have outbound marketing. We've probably got to have a marketer or at least an events coordinator kind of on the ground in the country. We got to have somebody to lead sales. We got to have somebody to lead the SDR team. We got to have solution engineers on the ground that can go visit customers and actually lay hands on things. So it's a big thing, right? And we make these decisions with limited information, right? With almost no questions about what does this mean for the future. We come up with a goal. We say, hey, we want to do 5 million in net new revenue in the EU in 2026. We want to do 10 million in 2027. We want to have a team of 10 people this year and a team of 20 people next year. And we set all these goals and we set up all these KPIs and metrics that are going to hopefully tell us that we're on track. But what we never do, and I know this because I've sat in the room. I've been in the room when these decisions have been made. I've been in the room for that particular decision multiple times in my career across multiple companies.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm even the guy who has to go and make it happen, right?
Right.
And what we never do three things. We never bring data into the conversation that would help illuminate the decision we're making, right?
Right.
We bring the data that's going to support our point of view, that's going to support the outcome that we're looking for, which is to open up a new region in Europe, right? But what we don't do is we don't bring to the table the information that says, okay, well, remember the last time we resegmented our business? Let's take a look at all of the things we did to make that decision. And then let's look at the outcomes of that and bring that into this conversation. Because that thing we did back then, resegmenting our business, has an awful lot of commonality with opening up a new market, right? So we can learn something from it. We don't do that. The other thing we don't do is we don't check our mindsets at the door, right? We don't check our biases at the door. I had an experience a couple of companies ago where we were going through this exact thing. Should we expand into Europe? And we happened to have a sales leader on our team who had done just that at his last two companies. And he was gung-ho. He knew exactly the roadmap, exactly how to get it done. This is what we've got to do, step, step, step. He brought his old playbook from the other company. We thought we were great. What we didn't notice or what we didn't understand was that he was bringing a biased mindset to the table. He had done it before and it had worked out. So naturally, it's going to work out this time.
Right.
Well, just ask an NFL team who's won last year's Super Bowl, like the Eagles, and how did it go this year? Didn't go so good, right? A lot of the same players, same coaching staff, same level of talent, completely different outcome, right?
Yeah.
That happens in business too. And then the third thing that we don't do, and this is the really critical part, and this is the part that we're trying to convince people that they need to do, is you need to ask what if questions. We call it scenario planning. And this is not a new discipline. This is a discipline that certain industries have taken almost to an art form. If you know anybody that works in aerospace or heavy manufacturing or big energy project construction, anything where you're building really big things that are potentially dangerous if something goes wrong and people or big things could break or die, right? They do this all the time. Good example. If you were to go to SpaceX and look at how they build a rocket, at every step along the way, for every design decision they make, for every material selection they make, they're asking a series of structured what if questions. Well, what if this isn't true? Well, what if this assumption doesn't pan out? What if it's wrong? What if we aren't thinking about the right things down the line? What if the fundamental set of assumptions we're making changes? They do this as a matter of course. And like I said, they've taken it to a very, very high level of excellence. We're happy for that, right? Because when a rocket goes sideways, it blows up.
Yeah.
And it's either going to waste a lot of somebody else's money on whatever it's carrying, or it could endanger lives, both in the spacecraft and on the ground. Same thing with an airplane. You know, you go out to the Boeing factory or the Airbus factory, you're going to see this exact same process taking place in every step along the way of building an aircraft, right?
Oh,
I don't know why we don't do it in our software companies and in our, our mom and pop, Main Street companies and stuff, because the stakes are the same. They're smaller scale a lot of times, but the survivability of an initiative or of a company largely depends on how well can we predict the future. And we don't do the most basic thing, which is try to imagine a different set of outcomes and then build contingencies around those potential outcomes.
wow.
It's a very simple thing to do, but nobody does it.
Thank you so much for breaking it down. Sure, if you know what to do, the consequences is actually the big thing. If you don't understand or know the consequences of their action until they see it, and when they see the consequences, then they, oh, if I know, even if you know, sometimes you still argue and say, no, I don't want to go that route. I think if you ask those questions, then you'll be able to, okay, if I don't do this, this might be likely consequences. Am I ready to face these consequences? And when you realize that, no, I don't think I want to face it, then you will consider to say, okay, what can I do to be able to be sure that this doesn't happen? Yeah, but thank you so much. I agree with you. However, let's move on to the magic one questions. This is a question that everyone gets to answer, and it's your turn. If you have a magic one and you could instantly improve one thing about AspireSix operation tomorrow, what will it be and why?
Just more deal flow. We're living through a moment right now where obviously there's been a lot of job loss in the tech sector over the last 3 years, let's just say, especially in the last year. And as a result, you have a lot of really talented, highly experienced, very competent people kind of out on the street. This has created a moment where the ranks of fractional executives, right, in every discipline area in a business, from finance to sales to the product house to the legal team, everything. There's a lot of these people out on the street right now. And a lot of them are realizing that, especially if they're over, let's say 45, certainly if they're over 50 years old, the job opportunities are just not there for them. And even when they do find an opportunity, the chances that they're going to get interviewed and make it through to an offer are very, very, very small. So this is having a psychological effect on the marketplace right now, where a lot of folks like me and like my peers here at AspireSix are looking around and saying, hey, I got to do this on my own. So you have a lot of folks like me and my peers out there doing this work. That makes the market very crowded for consulting firms like ours. It just makes everything harder. So deal flow is always top of mind for me. And that's something that, we work on every week to improve.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm gonna say your wish is not command because your magic one could be reality. So go. What specific AI because I know you build your career on designing revenue system and processes. I want to understand the functional side, and that's why I want to ask you, what specific AI tool or technology are you currently using at AspireSys to stay competitive? I mean, you mentioned now about lead flow, but are there any tools that you're currently using or you consider using? But I'm talking about something more specific aside your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, your Claude. What actually about tech stack are you currently leveraging on?
Yeah. I would say over the last year, we have reduced our tech stack by about 50%. When you start a company, we started this firm in its current form back in the middle of 2023. So, or sorry, 24. I get the years screwed up now. They're moving too fast for me. So about 18 months ago, we started this version of our company. And about 6 months in, we realized, whoa, we just got too many tools. There's just a lot of mess, right? So we brought in a new partner, Kelly Genslinger. She runs our AI and data practice. And she had a very strong opinion about certain tools that we were using that aren't safe and we shouldn't be using. So we got rid of those in favor of some other tools that are better designed and safer to use. But that was a forcing function for us to really take a hard look at what does our entire tool stack look like for a company of 20 people. And we realized we had just way too many tools. A lot of them, if you look at the Venn diagram of what they provide, there was a lot of overlap between many of them. And we weren't using but a fraction of the capability of most of these tools. So we did some requirements gathering and we realized, hey, we need a CRM, we need this, we need just a handful of tools to really do our job well. So that's been something we've been working on. Today, our tech stack starts and ends with AI. I'll just tell you that right now. And I'll say this out loud to anybody out there. And I don't fear if my competitors hear this because I want you to hear me. If you are a consultant today, I don't care if you're a solopreneur, you're in a small firm, medium-sized firm, big firm, your day should start and end with AI tooling. If you are not using AI to do pretty much all of your workflow, you are missing out and you are artificially restraining and undercutting your effectiveness, your efficiency, and your ability to do excellent work. So why do I say that? I've been using ChatGPT since the day it launched to the public. I was on the early beta list. I was an early beta user, and I signed up for my paid subscription the very first day that it was available. Recently, back in November, I had my 3-year anniversary with ChatGPT, and I did an analysis. I actually used ChatGPT to help me with this. And I asked it a simple question. Can you assign a dollar value to the value that I have derived from using this tool in all of the ways that I've used the tool, right? Because it knows full context of everything I've done. And it went off and did its thing for about 25 minutes and it came back and it gave me this report. And basically what it showed me is that I have quadrupled my ability to output high quality finished work, meaning I can do 4 times more work by using AI tooling than if I didn't. So that's huge. Number 2, it has helped me, you can look at it one way, either save or generate over $1 million of actual revenue producing work by using AI. Now, if you do that math, you realize that number, if I had done it the old way, that number would have been 200 grand or less in actual value derived from my effort versus the $1 million of work. And I have to say, that's, if you were to look across my usage of AI across that full 3 years, I would say the first year, it was probably 10 or 20% of my daily interaction with a system or a tool. The next year was probably 50%. Today, it's over 90%. And I actively build agents and stuff to automate other parts of my workflow that are just, time suckers, like checking email. Dude, I'm 59. I'm almost 60 years old. I've had email again since it came out. I'm doing it the same way today that I did in 1991, the first time I got an email account. That's crazy. That's stupid, right?
Yeah.
It is. And so I've started to kind of look at all of my workflows, even the ones that are just like brushing my teeth in terms of how familiar and how automatic they are to me. And I've started asking my AI tools, hey, is there a better way to do this? And in every circumstance, the answer is yes. And it will usually give me ideas that would never have even occurred to me about how to use it. Yeah, I mean, AI is a huge part of our business right now. It is, and to be clear, this is another something I want to say to the consulting community out there. Don't hide the fact that you're using AI. Don't obfuscate, don't underplay, don't, just tell it like it is. When I produce something awesome, like with ChatGPT or with Writer for a client, I tell them, oh, by the way, this is how I got this result. Because they always look at my work or our work and they're like, wow, you guys are really good. Yeah, you want to know why? Because we're not slogging through, the weeds trying to get this stuff done. I also get comments from clients who are like, my God, how did you turn that around so fast? Freaking AI,
Yeah.
right? And that's good for me because, again, to play the economics of this, I can charge a little bit less or I can charge for less time, give the client a much better result in a faster time frame for a lower cost. They're going to feel good about it. And I'm going to have more time. I haven't hurt my margins at all because I'm charging for less time. And it actually took me a lot less time. So I'm still charging for more time than it actually took me, less time than it would have the old way. And I'm still preserving, if not increasing my margins by using this tooling, even though the client is getting a better result at a lower price. So I encourage all my peers out there to do the back of the napkin math on this, and you will find that you will enhance your brand. You'll be a person of integrity and honesty by telling people exactly how you do it. And here's the thing. I've had other consultants say to me, they're like, well, man, aren't you afraid if you tell them that they're not going to use you anymore and they're just going to do it themselves? They're just going to grab ChatGPT and do it themselves. I'm like, honestly, dude, if they could, they would have been doing that all along. They don't know what they're doing with AI. But that's part of what we do too, is we try to, because we're transparent about it, we want to get especially executive leaders to realize that, hey man, you need to be on this train.
Yeah, yeah. That's all for now. Thank you for saying out loud. I think people need to know that AI is not to close them, but to enhance whatever they are doing, and they have to use it to their own advantage. But thank you so much for saying that loud. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about something you've literally written the book on, executive debt. This concept is fascinating, and I think it's particularly relevant to our conversation today. For those who haven't read your book yet, can you explain what executive debt is and why you believe it's one of the biggest hidden threats to scaling a business?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, executive debt is the long-term cost of the short-term decisions that you make. And it usually shows up in 4 areas of your business: strategic debt, operational debt, cultural debt, and talent debt. And let me unpack these all real quick. So strategic debt is again those moments where we're making those really important, what I call one-way door decisions, meaning once we go through this door, it's really hard, expensive, or damaging to our brand and reputation if we decide to go back through it. Okay. And then there's two-way door decisions. Those are the ones that are really easy to unwind, minimal impact on finances, no brand damage, no reputational damage, minimal impact on our people or our customers, right? Hey, we tried something, didn't work. Whoop, we're going to unwind that. I really care about the one-way door decisions, and every leader should, because those are the decisions like deciding to open up a new region in Europe. If you get that wrong, and I've lived through this, it costs millions of dollars. It's going to harm your employees, it's going to harm your brand, and it's going to harm your customers. And it usually results in one or more leaders and or their teams, ultimately leaving the company because it's a disaster. It's literally the definition of a disaster. So when we talk about strategic debt, we're talking about, hey, do you have initiatives that are stalled? Do you have projects that never come to fruition? Do you have initiatives that sound great when you're announcing them at the kickoff, but then when you start measuring the results, you realize nobody has a clue what we're actually asking them to do? So it manifests in a lot of different ways inside the organization. It typically will start creating operational debt. So imagine we decide to go to Europe. We've got to stand up new teams. We've got to buy new software. We have to have new policies in place. We've got to have a new business entity spun up. There's a lot of departments that have to be involved in that. A lot of new workflows and processes and tools that have to be spun up for that. When that breaks, or if that doesn't pan out, all of that stuff has to be unwound. And what happens in a lot of organizations is that vestiges of those things that you built but didn't pan out, or those initiatives you started but never really came to anything, unless you explicitly go back and you mop up all of that work and you shut down those workflows and you get rid of those tools or systems, they're going to persist. And somebody or groups of people in your organization are going to continue to just keep the trains running on time.
Yeah.
And what you end up finding is when you go to take a look at this stuff is that we have entire departments that are executing workflows that are no longer relevant to our business. We've had a system that's been doing that for 3 years. Why are they still generating that report every Friday over here on this team? Operational debt looks like lots of people running around, doing a lot of stuff. We're super busy, but we're not growing. We're not making progress. That's what operational debt looks like. And then the other two are very related, talent debt and cultural debt. When those first two things are true, you've got strategic debt and you've got operational debt, you got to ask yourself, well, where does all of that damage land? It lands on people. It lands on the people that have to lead the departments. It lands on the people that have to do the work, right? The CEO and the other C-level executives, they're not executing workflows. I mean, in most of the companies that I worked in, they went to a lot of meetings, they traveled a lot, they had a lot of phone calls and Zoom meetings, but they didn't execute any workflows, right? Workflows happen at the VP level and below. I would say in most organizations of size, at the director level and below. You have to know what's going on with your operations because if you don't, it's going to manifest as talent debt. You're going to have frustrated high performers who are doing their work plus the work of a couple of their peers from time to time. You're going to have frustrated leaders because they're having to jump into the pit with people who are not executing the work well and doing some of it for them, which means they don't have time to actually lead, right? So leadership takes a hit. All of that manifests as talent debt because people start getting frustrated. They start doubting the honesty of the leadership team. It's like, oh, here comes another initiative. We know it's going to turn to crap 6 months from now. So I'm not even going to really pay attention to that unless somebody tells me I've got to do something, right? That talent debt ends up walking out the door or ends up sitting there as a disgruntled, angry person who's going to ruin the next thing, which is the culture. And cultural debt is where once you've got a significant amount of cultural debt, that's when we say the patient's really, really sick because you can fix strategy, you can fix operations, you can fix your talent challenges with better hiring, training, onboarding, and all of that. Culture is really, really hard to fix because creating a good culture is not something that you do intentionally. It's an outcome of hiring good people, having a mission that people can get behind, having an organization that thrives on mutual success. Culture is an organic thing that builds over time. And when it breaks, it's not a quick fix. It's not an obvious fix. And usually what happens to culture is that culture that used to be there and now is broken gets replaced by something that's never as good as what you had before, and it's different than what you intended it to be, right? So that's really kind of what the book is about is, hey, the decisions that you make, if they're not well considered, will manifest as significant areas of challenging concern and problems in your organization, in your strategy, in your operations, in your people, and in your culture.
Well said. Thank you so much. The next question will be, are there any challenges that you've seen when you try to implement your process in an organization? Probably like resistance, or maybe even financial problem or whatever problem that you think has been the major bottleneck that you saw when you identify a company that needs your service really badly, but you just cannot do anything.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide how I want to answer this because I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly, but I work with a lot of founder-led organizations, right? Smaller companies, $5 to $50 million, Series A, B, C startups. And the thing I see with founders today is in many ways, they're their own worst enemy. People who found companies have a great idea, and it's an idea that's either about solving a problem or exercising some level of freedom and autonomy in their career. Those are kind of like the two camps of founders that I've been exposed to across my career.
Right.
The people who want to build something to solve a problem and the people who want to build something so they don't have to work for somebody else. Those are kind of like the two camps. The ones who get into the biz because they don't want to work for somebody else, they tend to have more challenges around the areas that cause executive debt and that cause folks like us to have to come in and help because they're coming from a point of view where I know what's best. I've got the experience. I know how to solve for this. Many of these folks, men and women, tend to view themselves as the smartest person in the room. And when you're talking to them, they leave no doubt about the fact that they think they're the smartest person in the room, right? So they're people who are not resistant to change, but will put a lot of barriers in front of you when you suggest change. Because at the end of the day, they think they know best, regardless of what the data is telling them, regardless of what their recent experience is, or regardless of what their most trusted advisors are telling them. So what do? They hire a knucklehead like me to come in, somebody they totally don't know, right? But I got a really cool website, and they elevate my opinion above everybody that's around them for the past 5, 10, 20 years. And that's silly to me. That's bonkers to me. And I call it out. When I meet a founder like that, I tell them straight up. It's like, well, you want to know why your company's broken? Just go look in the, walk in the bathroom and look in the mirror. It's you. Because in the first 15 minutes of our conversation, you've told me 29 different ways why you're awesome and why the company sucks because they're not following you. So that's one kind of founder. I don't like working with those founders. I sometimes am surprised to find, oh my gosh, I'm working for one of those founders right now. And the reason why, it isn't because they're not deserving of my help or our help as a company. It's because they have a fixed mindset and they're not willing to change. And our business is all about managing change. You've got a problem. We're going to identify what the root cause of that problem is. We're going to come up with a plan for how we're going to mitigate it, and we're going to go. Are you ready? Well, I got a few questions. What about this? Okay, we've talked about that, and this is what we're going to do. Well, that feels like something we've tried before, and it really didn't work. Yeah, but it's not you that's doing it this time. It's going to be our firm that's doing it this time, and we do it a little bit. Yeah, but I'm really not sure. That's why I don't like working with those kind of founders. What I would much rather work with is a founder who is locked in and insane about solving a problem, especially if it's a problem that they have felt themselves. Those are my favorite kind of founders because they are laser focused on one thing, which is solving that problem out in the marketplace and telling everybody about it, right? I can work with that because at the end of the day, what they care most about is solving the problem, not getting credit for having solved the problem, right? Those founders understand that, hey man, I don't need to worry about how much money we're going to make off of this because I know that I was so frustrated when I had to deal with this problem when I was sitting in the chair. And now we've built something that really fixes that problem. And I know other people like me are going to get really excited about it and they're going to pay us for it. So I'm not going to worry about the money, right? Those founders I can work with every day of the week and my team can work with because again, they're open. Their mindset isn't fixed. They are in a habit of working with data and talking to customers and trying to find the right answer. Even though they think they know it, they're like, yeah, but we're not there yet. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. That's the kind of company we love to work with because we can solve the problem many times very quickly with them. And we don't have to go back and do it again in 6 months. They learn the lesson and they move on. You know what I mean? And as a consultant, that's the best possible world for me. A lot of times, a founder will say to me, well, how long are you going to need to be around here? And I say, as short as possible time. I don't want to be, if I'm here a year from now, you need to just fire me because we're not doing what we should be doing. Unless the engagement requires it or whatever. But many times it's like, dude, if 6 months from now, things haven't really changed, you need to fire me. It's that simple.
Wow.
All right, thank you so much for breaking that down. One of these questions which I ask everyone, if you take a 6 month sabbatical today, will your company continue to grow or plateau?
I think my company would do just fine if I took a 6-month sabbatical. We've got a great team. They're all just excellent at what they do. And, I feel a lot of days I'm more a distraction than a help to them. But I do like the idea of taking a 6-month sabbatical. I do have some ideas about what I would do at that time.
All right, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Because we've seen in a situation whereby somebody told you, well, my business is in my head, so I know everything from A to Z. But when you're not there, what happens? Everything falls flat. So thank you for taking the initiative to know that the business definitely moves beyond you. If you not go, it should continue to run.
Absolutely.
All right. This question is, what keeps you up at night? Our listeners to these, some of the problems you solve for other people. What's the one problem that you think if you could solve it, that could be a game changer for you?
You know, I sleep really well at night, so there's really nothing that keeps me awake at night. But there are aspects of our business, and I don't even want to talk about it in the context of our company. There are aspects of the marketplace right now. There are some dynamics in play right now that I'm very concerned about. I think the biggest one, because it hits close to home, is, yeah, like I said, I've spent 35 years in enterprise software, right? To the early days, it was, shrink wrap software. You actually bought a box and it had diskettes in it and you'd install it that way. Then we moved to client server. Then the cloud became a thing, then SaaS. And now we're on the doorstep of a new era.
Wow.
I don't know if you've watched any of Eric Schmidt's interviews over the last, let's just say 2 years, ever since ChatGPT has kind of captured, or AI, generative AI has captured the imagination of kind of the world writ large. And he talks about a couple of things that are coming that I think are spot on. And one, the big one, is that the way that software is designed and used and purchased is going to dramatically change in the next 2 to 3 years, I would say. And it's going to be driven by one primary reality, is that the way the human machine interaction is going to fundamentally change. And I can only speak to it from my own experience. In my first year and a half, 2 years with these AI tools, I was typing everything and, interacting on basically in a command line, right? Because that's what a ChatGPT window is. It's a command line, just a natural language command line. But today I spend most of my time talking to my AI tools, those that support conversational mode. Why do I do that? Well, one, Star Trek. That's why. I'm a kid who grew up on Star Trek. And from my first imagining of what a computer is and what it can do for humanity, I was seeing Captain Kirk and Spock and all these guys talking to a computer, and their computer was responding. And then 10 or 12 years later, when I got in front of my first actual computer, I had to type everything in, and it was a command line, and I couldn't talk to my computer and have it understand me until about 2 years ago. So I was really primed for this, and I'm really excited about it. But here's the other reason I do it that way, is because the tool we have in front of us today, for all intents and purposes, is indistinguishable from a person. It's another inorganic being that can, as far as I'm concerned, can think. I know it's not actually thinking in the biological way of thinking about it, but it's doing it good enough to fool me, right? And so interacting with computers in this manner is going to fundamentally change this whole UX situation. Imagine a world where I need to manipulate data, like I'm doing my weekly budget for my family. Right now, I open up Excel and I've got a spreadsheet that I started back in 2004, and it's got a tab for every month since then with our family budget in it. It's got 20 plus years of data in there. Why do I have to continuously open up Excel and open up my banking app and grab a balance and put it into my spreadsheet and go to my investment account and grab that balance and put it in here and go check my checking account and put the balance in here? Why do I have to do that when I should be able to just say to my computer, update my budget for this week? And it will go out and grab all of that information that it needs and puts it into a place. I don't even care where it stores it. Doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, all I want to be able to say is, hey, can you print me out our weekly budget? Nope. Yep, I can. That's what's coming. That's what Eric Schmidt is talking about when the whole UX paradigm is about to shift. We are not ready for that. We, meaning the industry. There are a lot of smart people in this industry, and they are head in the sand, apparently trying to wish it away as if it's not real. And I've seen this happen before. I watched the transition from, again, shrink wrap to client server to cloud to SaaS. Now that was about a 10-year journey all in. Imagine collapsing that down into a year or two. And now take a look at the economic impact that those 3 changes had over that 10 or 15-year period. Wild fortunes were created and lost in that period of time, right? I mean, you and I could both mention probably a half a dozen companies that were unicorns worth over $1 billion that aren't around anymore. And it's not because they got bought. It's because their solution got phased out of the marketplace. That's going to happen to, I would say, easily 50%, but probably closer to 80 or 90% of the discrete SaaS products that we see on the market today. I'm thinking of tools like Outreach, like Gong, like Salesforce. These tools won't be around in a few years. I mean, they'll persist much longer than they need to, but the market will have moved on to something different, and they'll just hang around as a legacy play for all. I mean, you can still find people that are running JD Edwards on an AS400 in the back room of a bank. I mean, if you probably go to your local credit bureau or something like that, you're going to see an AS400 running in the back, running JD Edwards software. So this stuff will always be around, but the fat part of the market is going to move on. And we're going to be expecting our computers to just create the application interface that we need in order to interact and get what we need in that moment. I don't care where my data is stored. I don't care where my files are stored, because I know all I got to do is ask the computer and it's going to give me what I need because it knows what I'm looking for, right? That I think is where we're living right now. And that's what we're talking to the market about, especially software companies that we work with. You know, one of the first questions I ask is, what's your product strategy look like for 2027? And they all, like, 2027? Man, we're still cooking our roadmap for 26. You might as well just take your roadmap for 26 and put it in a nice ball and throw it in the trash, because what you're building for 26 is not going to work in 27. So maybe get ahead of the curve and start building for a UX-less, world that we're all going to live in.
Wow. Thank you so much. If you are in front of business owners listening or probably talking to them, especially those who are struggling with unpredictable revenue, probably executive debt, or trying to scale beyond themselves, what's that one piece of advice that you would be giving them right now?
Yeah. So, and it doesn't matter what the problem is in your business. If you have a problem in your business or a challenge that has persisted for more than 2 quarters, and you've actually tried to fix it, figure it out, mitigate it, whatever, you've been talking to your executive team, you've been talking to your frontline leaders, you've been talking to your rank and file folks, you've been talking to your customers, you feel like you've got all the data you need, but you still can't get that thing to work, or you can't fix that challenge. I would say you need to call somebody from outside your organization to come in and take a look. If you have a board, invite 1 or 2 of your board members to form a committee and try to tackle the issue. If you have the money and the inclination, hire somebody like me, whether it's a fractional CXO, a consulting firm, whatever. But get another set of eyes and another brain at the table, because in my experience working in dozens of companies, both as an employee leader and as a consultant, when you're this close to the problem, you can't see the forest for the trees, and you need to zoom out. And nobody can zoom out better than somebody from outside your organization, because that's where they're starting from, right? When I walk into a company, I do 2 things. I look at the financials and I talk to everybody related to whatever it is I'm trying to solve. So if I've got a go-to-market problem, for example, hey, growth is flat, churn is bad, renewals are not happening, pipeline's garbage, help us. I come in, I look at the financials, and then I talk to the sales leader and everybody that works for that sales leader. And then I talk to all the adjacent departments, right? I talk to the product house. I talk to customer success. I talk to marketing. I talk to product marketing. I talk to the finance team. I want to get as many perspectives on the problem as it's been defined for me. Is that correct in your estimation? Because a lot of times a senior leader will tell me this, and this are broken. Then I go talk to the next level down and they're like, well, actually, this and this are broken, but that third thing, not terribly important right now. Okay, great. Then I go to the next layer down and they're like, yeah, those 2 things are broken, but you know what? Before that, there are 7 other things that are contributing to the brokenness of those first 2 things. Let me show you what those are. And then I get down to the people who actually do the work and they're like, everything's garbage. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's like, pick your poison, right? Those 2 things, looking at the financials and then triangulating reality through conversations with people, allows me to walk in and be effective in the first 30 days. Certainly by the first 90 days I'm in an organization, we've done significant turnaround plays, because I can just, again, speak for myself. When I've been in a company for 2, 3, 4 years, you start getting blinders and you don't see the totality of what it is that you're doing anymore, because you're so siloed by your function that you really don't care what's happening in these other departments. I mean, if we're being honest, right? It's like, hey, my team's hitting their metrics, we're hitting our KPIs and our OKRs. It's all good, baby. Well, that's not a great attitude.
All right, thank you so much. Where can our listener connect with you to learn more about AspireSix, and if they are interested where can they grab a copy of your book,
Yeah.
Executive Debt?
So if you're looking to get in touch with me, you can reach me at my website, AspireSix.com. That's aspire, the word six.com. You can also find me at executivedebt.com. That's another site that we own as well. If you're interested in getting the book, Executive Debt, you can go to our website and get a free ebook version of this. If you want the printed copy, like I have, I like actual books because they smell good. You can find it on Amazon, as well as if you go to our website, there's a link there that you can click and take you right to the Amazon page to buy it. We also just are in the process of launching an online course called Executive Debt Mastery. And basically what it does is it takes all the stuff in the book and it puts it into an operating model that leaders can learn how to use and go and tackle the executive debt that's in their organizations, on your own with your team. Right.
Wow, fantastic. I really appreciate your transparency today about the wins, the challenges you've navigated, the obstacles, experience, journey, everything that you've shared today. It's really valuable. And I know our audience definitely will benefit a lot from it, especially leaders who probably have this kind of problem, but they fail to acknowledge it. And I mean, they know, but they just don't know what to do. I believe they will be reaching out to you, definitely. But thank you so much for coming through. We really do appreciate you. And we want to wish you well in your endeavor. And let's take a thought.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It was a genuine pleasure to be here. I appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but success with your podcast and your company, man.
All right. Thank you.
You didn't quit your day job to become a full-time admin assistant. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you didn't start your business to spend 60 hours a week on paperwork, chasing leads, and managing endless admin tasks. You started it to build something meaningful and serve your clients. But right now, you're trapped in the day-to-day grind instead of growing your business. What if I told you our clients are reclaiming 15, 20 hours per week, increasing their revenue by 30 to 50% within 12 months, and finally getting their lives back? We don't just automate random tasks. We build custom AI systems that eliminate the bottlenecks choking your growth, from leads generation to lead, nurturing and management to project management to client follow-ups. Stop paying for an expensive, frustrating manual system. It's time to upgrade to strategic automation. Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free business transformation strategy call today. Discover exactly how much time and money you're losing to manual processes and how to get both back. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Intelligence Forge, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with game-changing insights. Your future automated business is waiting.